Hello Shift players. A lot of you were wondering in my previous video if I was using controller, and yes, in fact I was. So today I'm going to talk about PS4 controller customization. This includes settings, remapping, and add-ons that will help you execute feints and other fun things. At the end of my video, I'm going to give you a pro tip of something that I personally use when I play. Let's start with in-game settings. These are settings that you can easily change in-game within the Chivalry app. I'm going to talk about these a little bit before I move on to my next point. Okay, so you're going to want to change your attack direction to manual. This means that you can manually alternate your swings, which is helpful if you want to execute feints or the sneak attacks that I talked about in my previous video. Don't be afraid to turn crossplay on. And don't be afraid to play with PC players. If you follow my guide, you'll be just as quick as they are. So now I'm going to talk about the sensitivity settings. I've increased sensitivity of X. This makes it easier to do stuff like accels, which is turning in the direction of your swing to make it faster. Increasing sensitivity of X also just gives you better responsiveness in terms of how you turn. I've decreased the sensitivity of Y. Do this only if you don't care about crouch matrices. Less sensitivity here means you'll be more stable in your movement and on your feet, meaning you'll be looking up and down less. Also, decrease your dead zones for both your left and right stick. Now these settings, they work for me, but obviously other setups are also valid. In terms of remapping buttons, you obviously can't do it in game, but you can do it in PS4 settings, so I'm going to show you how. The first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go into accessibility and then click on button assignments. Within this tab, you can customize your controller, decide which buttons correspond with which functions. This is easy to do and easy to turn on and off. And finally, here's a pro tip, which is paddles. I really recommend getting these. Paddles are a great way to further customize your controls based on your playstyle. Here's what they look like on the controller. There are two buttons left and right underneath the joysticks. They correspond with pretty much any button that you decide you want them to correspond with. Here's an example of a defensive setup. You can see that crouch is on the left side and kick is on the right. This makes it easier to access stuff like kick when you're playing. Here's an offensive setup. Special attack is on the left, feint is on the right. That's another way you can make certain things easier to reach. And finally, here's an unorthodox setup. This is what I use personally. It is not for everyone. I've combined the remapping of controls through PS4 settings, as well as adding paddles to my controller. The way that I have it set up is block and slash corresponds with the left and right paddle below the joystick, which pretty much freed up the L2 and the R2, and I designated L2 as kick and R2 as special attack instead. I fairly often use these, so that's why it is the way that it is. I prefer having them there rather than to the right of my joysticks. The really great thing is that there are obviously many ways to customize and optimize your controller. Don't be afraid to experiment. I really recommend experimenting with different things in terms of sensitivity settings and remapping controls and adding paddles. The second one I really recommend getting. It will change the way that you play. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you haven't already, check out my other video guides for tips and tricks.